Hello and welcome to the 21st Century Writer, a podcast devoted to helping you, the self-published writer, navigate the waters of publishing, writing, and figuring out the mindset required to be a writer in the 21st century. My name is Diane Petersen. I'm a novelist and blogger. And with me is...
I'm Hannah Steenbock, a German author and coach.
And our guest today is Alan Petersen, who hasn't joined us yet, but that's okay because we have all the intro stuff to do. Alan is a writer of mystery thrillers and a really cool guy who I've gotten to know through the writing community. He also does a podcast called Meet the Thriller Author, on which I have been a guest. Thank you very much. And we're going to, we're going to talk about writing today. Because it's something that we can all talk about, and it's certainly something that I really want to know how other people keep going, particularly when they've had weeks like I've had.
Which takes us to the writing week.
The writing week. How's it been going, Hannah?
It's been mostly okay. I've been really busy writing, not my fiction, but doing other stuff, writing blogs, writing bios, writing a mock interview, that kind of stuff. And I had a really disappointing attempt on email marketing.
Oh.
I was going to buy an ad in one of those email promotion places
for your book,
for the first book in my series. And I found out that all of those places have a minimum page requirement. And my first installment does not meet it, which is more than a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, I know several people who've gone back and, shall we say, lengthened their novella to meet those requirements. You're not the first person to run across that.
That is an option I've been thinking about. I don't want to just go and pad my story. I think I'd have to add a quarter in word count to it.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right now it stands at 76 print pages and the minimum is 100 or 125. So it would need some substantial adding.
Yeah.
If I had known before I finished the whole story, I probably would have made up stuff. But it feels weird to go back. I mean, it's been out since February, I think. And it feels really silly to go back, but it definitely crimps my promotional abilities.
Yeah, it's that is something that a lot of writers have factored into planning out a project.
Yeah.
And where can they advertise it?
I will definitely. I mean, I have another series in mind, which I'll go on to once I have finished with the dragons, and I'm going to make sure that first one is definitely going to meet the page requirement. I mean,
yeah, it's unfortunate that in fact, that's one of the things you have to keep in mind when
it just is. Yeah, part of the
don't write
life.
just what you want to.
Well,
yeah,
I think you should write what you want to, but you should also be strategic about it. So.
Well, that's extremely true, particularly in the last week, where I've reached the point again where I just have to step away from the internet because all the talk is making me crazy.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, all of this stuff about Kindle Unlimited and the future of self-publishing. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there about whether we do have options from here on out. If you have a novel series and you do not have a really specific plan for going wide, you're going to go into Kindle Unlimited. it's the giant magnet pulling everything, and it's definitely adding an imbalance to publishing.
Well, add the fact to that Nuke is going to be restricted to the US and UK only, and all other accounts worldwide are going to be terminated, which is such an
I hadn't heard about that.
It's I don't know how many people in Germany have subscribed to or have a Nuke, and are basically Barnes and Noble customers. They're going to be cut off if they do not download their EPUBs. They're going to lose them, and by the end of, I think by mid-August, they have like a month's warnings. And to be honest, I think that's the most horrible move they could make. I'm beyond disbelief. I can't imagine a company taking itself apart. I mean, this is like harakiri. I mean,
yeah.
I can't understand it.
I've already been burned by the initial companies that did ebooks, Fiction-Wise and e-reader, or I don't even remember their name.
Something.
I bought a couple of books from them, and it was a pain in the tuchus. You had to like enter in your credit card every time. This is way back when we had to hand crank our computers. And then they went out of business, or they got assumed into Nook. Something I can't remember even what happened.
Sony was assumed into Nook.
And somehow I guess I misplaced the files or something. Well, that's it. That I'm not getting those books ever again.
Yeah,
they're gone. And it's and Nook, run by a bookstore. Yeah, people are getting a little nervous here. Between the way Google Play is behaving. Woohoo! Hey, Alan! Yay!
Hi, Alan.
Sorry, we're discussing Nook and the imminent death of Barnes and Noble Online. And and with what Google Play is doing, and I don't know if Kobo has a presence anywhere. I know that my book was #1 on Amazon's free charts, and I think I gave away maybe 100 or 200 copies on Kobo. I mean, it was, I don't know what Kobo's doing. It's getting a little nerve-wracking. Hey, Alan. Hi.
Can you see us?
Can you not hear us? Oh, check. Go up to the top. Check your microphone settings.
Let's see.
Oh, we can hear you.
Let me do this. That's right.
Can you hear us? Oh, you can plug it in.
Yeah, I think he's got to set up his microphone and headphones.
Yep. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Woo, yay.
I had it set going to the microphone, not through the computer, so I had to put these things on.
Oh. Well, you can change the settings up at the menu on top, but
I saw you pointing up there.
Yeah, you will. Google Hangouts just likes to shake things up a little, make sure that it's different every time, so you don't get complacent. So you might have to check that
great. So
every single time you use Hangouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Alan, welcome. We're just doing our recap of the week, talking about how crazy developments in the last week have made me.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. Never seen it so crazy ever, like on all the writing forums and Facebook groups. And
I'm like, okay, I have to step away because it's beginning, and I'm not having the easiest week to begin with, because I don't know what's going on, but I'm not sleeping.
Oh.
It's like I'm just not sleeping. So I get up, and it's like the last thing I want to do is type for 4 hours. So last week I did 13,000 words. This week, 2,000.
Oh, well, that's a drop.
That's not a good week.
Hey, that's 2,000 words though. It's better than 0.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely better than 0.
And I am in Act 2, so which tends to go a little bit slower than Act 1. But,
yeah.
So yes, for those of you at home who may notice this, who watch the videos, the map of Los Angeles is gone, and I have installed a whiteboard here so I can play with scenes and move stuff around. And
wow, that's like she's gone in that movie when she had all the little to-do things on there.
I'm sure it's scene chapters.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I've always wondered, like, in real life, when people are trying to put, put down the connections between various things happening, do they really get out pieces of string? Or nowadays, do they just use Evernote and like put on tags to like link various things together? I don't know.
That's what I use. I use Evernote and I use Scrivener, and Scrivener's got little fake digital note cards. So
the fake. Yeah, somebody. Sorry, we're going to take a slight tangent into Scrivener here because I love Scrivener. I could talk about it endlessly. I mentioned that since I write mystery novels, I have to keep track of what happens on which day. You know, who knew what when. And I use the status menu in Scrivener for that. And they're like, "Oh, wait, how do you use that? How do you set that up?" And I go, "Well, there's actually 3 ways that I can think of off the top of my head that you can keep track of days and times in Scrivener, but you know, there's one, or you could set up custom metadata, or you could use keywords, or..." I love Scrivener. There's just nothing you can't do with it. How's your week been going, Alan?
Well, I've been sleeping. Sorry, so at least I've been getting my sleep. But no, it's been going all right. I am kind of stuck though. That's why I found the topic of your podcast for this week very timely for me, because it is tough getting going, especially if you get in a rut or if you get kind of sidetracked. So
well, let's do a little intro for listeners who maybe haven't read the blurb for this podcast. This is Alan Petersen. He writes mystery thrillers. What else? What else do we need to know about you, Alan?
Nothing. I got 2 books out. Working on a 3rd one in the series, and then I'm working on a new series also. So got a couple series. Although I haven't published any on the new series either. Yeah. And so yeah, I live in San Francisco. I'm originally from Costa Rica, but I've been living in the States for like 20 years. So.
So where do you set your mysteries? Do they take place in the U.S. or somewhere else?
Well, they take place at the first 2 are in Latin America, but they kind of go everywhere. Oops, sorry, I hit my microphone. So they're like espionage. So so it's basically everywhere. So the first one was set in Venezuela, and it was kind of based on a true event of the 2002 coup attempt of Hugo Chavez in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new one now takes place all over, and then it actually does finish in San Francisco though. So
nice.
So you can move the action to a to local.
Yeah, I figured since it's easier to write when you know a little bit about the areas and stuff, so I just find that's easier for me. So I usually do that. But
yeah. I saw on your webpage, and we'll include a link to Ellen's page on our show notes, that you had a clip from the movie Bullet to show people what kind of street you live on.
Yeah, because I'm not from the Bay Area originally, so for me that is so cool.
Oh,
I still think it's cool.
My fun factoid is when I was in high school, I can't even remember who this was or why this was, but for some reason I ended up, the guy who currently at that point owned the Bullet car, drove me somewhere, and we went down one of those hills.
Oh, that is sweet. Those are my favorite movies of all time.
Do you find that movies or other books that you've read influence you a lot in picking what you want to watch, or
I'm a big
what you want to write? I'm asleep, people.
I'm both. No, yeah, no, yeah. I'm a pop culture guy, so that does influence me. I don't try to. I try to keep it away from it a little bit though, so it doesn't influence me too much. But I do. It does creep in there. I mean, I worry about it, seeping into it a little too much. But movies and the books that I read, it does influence me. I'm also one. I know a lot of people say you shouldn't read and what you write, but I really like I really like thrillers, so I still read thrillers. So
I have the hardest time with that because I love thrillers. I love mysteries. I love thrillers, and I guess I'm afraid. I'm afraid that I will be influenced by them, or I'm afraid that I'm going to think, oh, this person is so good, I should just stop.
Oh, I get that. I get that all the time too. Oh, yeah, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is so awesome. It goes away.
I read a mystery set in Los Angeles, and I almost just I had to stop writing for a couple of days because I was like, well,
yeah,
what more is there to say?
I have to stay away from fantasy if I mean specifically the very kind that I write when I write it, because I will take over. I will copy the language of the author and find that my voice is changing what I'm writing. And I branched out writing something else, and I've been reading a lot of steampunk by a certain author who has her characters do a lot of banter. They really have this funny way of picking at each other, and I found that my characters were doing it not quite that way, but they were having more banter than I usually write, and I thought that was kind of cool because it did fit the story, so I didn't fight it, and it was a lot of fun to just allow this to flow into the story, just that influence from the other author, and it's a different genre, so people won't notice, won't matter. So that was fun. But yeah, I find that what I read influences my writing. There's no way around it. I think that's the way our brains work. And I have to say, I write mostly fantasy. You probably don't know that about me. And I admire people who can pull off thrillers and mystery because it's so hard for me to plot that kind of stuff. I've written one installment in my series which is mostly intrigue, and it was so difficult to write for me because I'm not a person who plots behind someone else's back. So how do you do that? How do you create your plot? How do you create all these misleading information that keeps the reader on the wrong track? How do you put that all together? You must plot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I plot. I mean, I don't go deep plots. I just do. I figure out the scenes in my head, and then I do a little synopsis of each chapter, so like a little blurb maybe, and then I have all that set. But it changes too, though. Sometimes I'll leave something out. I'll add something. It changes as you start writing. But I do have a little outline that I need to get started, because if not, yeah, it'll kind of get lost then.
And do you ever shift around those cards in Scrivener? Do you do that a lot?
Yep, a lot of drag and dropping, and then adding later too, like something didn't make sense. So like, oh, I'm gonna have to explain this a little bit better, so I'll add another scene or another chapter to it. So yeah, the drag and drop features of Scrivener are my best friend.
I cannot figure. I know so many people who are like, no, I will only write in Word. That's the only way that I know. And I'm like, I would never even attempt anything over 10,000 words.
Well, yeah, I never finished anything when I've been wanting to be a writer since I was a kid, and I wrote a lot of stuff, but I never finished anything until I started with Scrivener, because it just got away from me on Word, and it was just too hard to be copying and pasting, and then it just got to be a mess, and I got discouraged, and I quit. So it wasn't until I started using Scrivener, and Scrivener is a little confusing at first. It's so you need to give it time. But once I got it going, I was able to finish 2 books now, and so.
I do write in LibreOffice, which is for a very simple reason. I have a part-time day job, where I don't have much to do. And so I spent some of that time writing, and I actually have LibreOffice on this little this little USB stick.
So I'm guessing the laws must be a little different there, because technically in American workplaces, or at least in California workplaces, whatever you work on at the office belongs to the company.
Well, nobody ever told me that. It's also it's university admin. They would not be able to do anything with fantasy novels.
Well, it's true. Probably, you know, if I worked for the tech company my husband works for, I'm sure that they would not want the rights to my novels. You know, if I start working on a computer program, they would take a little more interest. But yeah, technically, what you work on at the office belongs to the company.
I don't actually know, to be honest. I mean, what I did was I notified them that I'm working as author in my free time. That is something required by our laws. If you have worked part-time there and you do another job outside of that, they want to be notified. Since it's creative, I don't have to tell them how much money I make. I have to tell my tax people, but not my work people. And they just don't know. I use the Libre portable stuff because it doesn't leave traces.
Yeah.
And I hope my boss never ever watches this.
Okay, so Alan, we'll get into what's going on today. But in general, how do you approach a project? How do you get started? How do you develop the project, and what's your writing schedule like?
Well, I get an idea. I get a lot of ideas in my head. You know, and as a thriller writer, you do get influenced a lot from events in the news and the media. So if I see something that sounds like really like, wow, that could be a really cool story, I'll jot it down. So I have a notebook, and I have a lot of ideas in the notebook. I used to do the recording thing too, but I prefer the notebook. It's just, it comes to me, I just flip it open and I write it. So I have two notebooks on me all the time. A bigger one that's on my laptop bag, and then like a little pocket one that I just always just have it around. So I'll write those down. So then when I get started in a project, if one like really is like I can't stop thinking about it, then that's the one I'll zero in on, and then I'll just start to plot it out to see if it's even feasible, to see where it could go. And if that all starts falling into place, and I end up getting, I think I could be able to write at least 80,000 words on this. Then I'll give it a go, and then I just start writing. And my writing schedule, I try to write 2,000 words a day. I don't make it out every day, but that's my goal. I use that Scrivener word count thing. So I use that, but that's what I try to do, and the reason I use 2,000 words is because I read Stephen King's on writing, and I think he said in there, I'm like, well, that's Stephen King, so that's why I chose 2,000. And I knew nothing about this when I first started. I had never been to one of the writing forums or anything, but now I see 2,000 as a goal for a lot of people. So I think a lot of people have read Stephen King's book.
And how much time does it take you to write those 2,000 words? I mean, I know it varies, but
yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes it's really quick. I try to write 5 hours a day, but I break it out. So I'll do a couple hours in the morning, then I'll do a couple hours in the afternoon, and then late at night, I'll do another 2 hours. I'm a night owl. And then sometimes if things are going on in the morning or in the afternoon, then I'll cram more at night, late at night. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just depends.
And do you do a lot of drafts, or are you pretty clean first draft writer?
No, I'm a mess. Yeah, no, I do probably, I'd say probably 3. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I start writing, I can't stop, because then if I stop and I think too much, I start overthinking, I start doubting myself, I start changing, then I just kind of stop. So I just go, and so when I'm done, I got a big old mess on my hands. So I go back, and I don't go back. I don't, and I'm, these are all things I'm experimenting with, because I hear other people who say, oh, it's much better if you go back. So I might change things, but right now for me, it's just I just go through and write it, and then at the end I'll go back and read it, and then I'll start making changes there, and then and then I'll get it to where I feel I won't be embarrassed to send it out to people, and then I'll go out to an editor, and then I'll come back and I'll do more rewrites from that too. So at least 3.
Yeah,
I'm a slowpoke.
yeah. I know that's another thing that I had to stay away from online. It's like, yes, I wrote 4 novels this week. It's like, shut up. I don't want to hear it.
I published 1 in 2013, 1 in 2014, so I'm slow.
Well, we had Libby Hawker on here a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about how it took her 2 years to write her first novel, and now she's at a pace where she's writing like 10 a year.
Yeah, I got her book to try to help me. I like that. I watched that podcast of yours because I got her book. So, and I also got one now from Chris Fox, 5,000 Words, and he has his app. So I'm trying. I haven't implemented that yet, but I read the book and I have the app, so I might give that a whirl too.
Well, I don't know what his advice is, and it's funny because so many people talk about from 2K to 10K by Rachel
Aronson, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it seems to come down to know what you're going to write.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I read that one too. Yeah, you're right.
That's why I'm plotting stuff out ahead of time because I can't have 2,000-word weeks.
Yeah, you just said it right there. So instead of people reading all these different books, just do what you just said. That's what it boils down to. If you're organized, if you know what you're going to write, if you have everything plotted out, you should be able to flow.
And it's funny because I don't find that. I mean, I haven't found an outlining method yet that works for me 100%. I mean, for instance, I'm doing a page 1 rewrite on the book that I'm working on now, and I got to a scene that I'd written before, so I knew roughly how it was supposed to go, and I went a totally different way with the scene, and I went, wait, where did that come out of? No.
Oh yeah, that happens to me too. It changes a lot.
Where did this character come from?
Here's actually my new I printed out then too. So I write all the scenes out. This is the one I'm working on now. And then I just print it out, even though I use Scrivener and everything. But this helps me because if I get lost, then I just go back and I'm like, oh, okay, scene 11. Here's where he's got to deal with his friend's assassination. Sorry, that's where my finger went.
Life of a mystery author.
I don't know. So that's how it's supposed to go. How's it been going, Alan?
Oh, it hasn't been going very good. I printed it out though.
Well, we'll talk about that. So you have an outline. I mean, it might not be a really in-depth outline, but you have the general ebb and flow of your work.
Mm-hmm.
You know roughly what point you're trying to get to. What's going on?
Well,
what's the hang-up?
Well, yeah, I think with things life happens. Life gets complicated and things get in the way. That has nothing to do with writing, and it kind of gets in the way of things. So that's kind of part of the problem. So that's why you need to get into that mindset that no matter what's happening, it sounds kind of cruel too, because if something's happening in your life that's that's not a good thing, but you still need to keep track with what you're writing. So even though things are happening, I do try to at least go to the coffee shop, for example, and maybe write there for an hour or so. So that's the thing. And then you also get burned out of writing the same series. I've been working with the same characters now since 2012. So it's like okay, I'm getting a little tired of these guys. So I've started writing a different one. So now I'm going on 2, but I found that that's helped me mentally too. It helps you take a break off the one and write another one. And they're pretty different. My books right now are more thrillers. This other one is more of a kind of a police procedural. So it's kind of cool. It's like new things to learn, new things to do. So I find that very helpful too to get me on track, is to be able to have something different to write to kind of give me a break from the regular stuff.
How much research do you do? I mean, you just mentioned police procedures and new stuff to learn. So I would imagine you'd have to do tons of research.
Yeah, there's a lot of research. You do a lot of research. I try to stay away from Wikipedia because you never know who anybody can. I can go and edit Wikipedia if I wanted to, so I that makes it a little harder. But I mean, I do use it. But yeah, I do a lot of online research, and this new series I'm working on. I actually, for the first time, I actually interviewed somebody. A police person, so I'm pretty excited about that. It's the first time ever that I've done that. So,
I came home from Writers Police Academy, which is a great conference, by the way. Unfortunately, you have to sign up for it the second it becomes available, and I couldn't do it this year, or I totally would have been there. Anyhow, Writers Police Academy. One of the things that they really emphasize there is call your local department, talk to somebody, go in and talk to them. These people are public servants. They are there to talk to you. So I said, great, awesome. There's something I need to ask somebody about a particular death scene. Called them up. I called every coroner's office between here and Oakland, and not one of them would talk to me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I went, aren't you guys here to talk to me? Don't you have like a person to talk to? What are you doing all day?
Do you know Jeff Lindsay? He writes the Dexter books.
Yeah.
He's awesome. I really like his books and that show too, except the last season. But anyway, he wrote. It was hilarious. He said something where when he first started to write Dexter, he did the same thing you did, and he tried to get the blood splatter experts in Miami, anywhere, anyone. Nobody would talk to him. Nobody would return his calls, and so he just went. He just wrote it. He just did his own research. He did the legwork and wrote these great books. And then when the books became the TV show on Showtime, they became a huge hit. I can't remember what's the name of the actor that plays Dexter. He's a great actor.
Michael
Hall. No.
Yeah, Michael C. Hall.
Yeah. Yeah. So when he came in to meet the author because they were starting the show, he's like, oh, I called so-and-so, the blood splatter expert in Miami, and Jeff Lindsay was getting ready to talk about how horrible, commiserate how hard it is to get a hold of him. He goes, isn't he wonderful? He let me ride around with him, and he took me to all these crime scenes, and just like, son of a gun! Good writers get no respect.
Well, that's it. One of the speakers at Writers Police Academy last year was Lisa Gardner, who's had several #1 New York Times bestsellers. And she says that not once when she has called a law enforcement agency has someone recognized her name.
No.
They may not. They maybe they don't like reading thrillers.
Yeah.
I have an Austrian friend who wrote a thriller series, and she lives near Vienna, and she actually called their coroners and got the opposite reaction. They said, oh, it's awesome that you want to know the details. Come and we'll teach you. And so she actually spent days with them and learned all the procedures and got to see all this because her main character is a coroner. So
well, there's one mailing list I'm on, Crime Scene Writer, and I'll have a link to that too, where you can ask questions like this, and there are law enforcement people who will answer them. And I know there's another major list like that as well. But yeah,
I got it through a friend. That really, if you can find somebody that knows somebody, that's how I got my in, and then they're very helpful then.
A friend of a friend is going to introduce me to a cop in Hollywood.
Yeah, that'll be
I got to go down there to talk to him, but.
Good. Yeah, I'm in a writing group, and there's an ex-cop who writes what would you call that? It's basically nonfiction about the people he met and experienced and saw.
Oh, that true crime?
Yeah, true crime, and the thing is, I don't really want to ask him because he's definitely into he has a problem with PTBS, and I really don't want to trigger him, so he would be a great source, and we're part of an author group, but I kind of hesitate asking him because I don't want to push him back into... I'm also a therapist and coach, and I know what PTBS means, and I really do not want to trigger anyone just because I have a question as author, so...
I think in that case I would find somebody else.
Yeah, that would make me nervous to send him down a spiral or something.
So yeah, I mean, even though he does write these books and they are cathartic for him, they really help him deal with everything. But he does it on his when he feels like it. So I don't need to push him into anything. So.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned writing in a new genre, even though police procedurals are adjacent to mysteries and thrillers and spy thrillers, sort of the crime genre. Because this year, as a side project, I did a totally different genre, sort of a zombie comedy thing. I don't know what it is. And Hannah is also doing a side genre, taking a little break from fantasy. So I guess we all need to clean the palette a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. It's really healthy, because if you do one thing too much and for too long, you really go into burnout. And I think there's nothing worse to kill creativity. So even if you do some stupid fan fiction, which is something I also did earlier this year, I just couldn't stand my dragons, so I needed to do something else, and I wrote some fan fiction and just had fun with capturing their language patterns, capturing their way of expressing themselves, trying to be really true to the series, which is, how do you say that? Which is a bone I often pick with fan fiction, because they take a character and twist them until they're no longer recognizable. So,
well, I'm finding a need for new genre after 4 books. It's just sort of a little side project. Really makes you wonder how Sue Grafton does it, huh?
Yeah, that's amazing.
But
or even like in other genres, even like was it Holly H.M. Ward, who has like 18, 20 books in the same series. I'm like, holy moly.
Apparently,
I'm sure they're doing something in between. I wouldn't be able. I can't imagine them being able to do the same. Well, it's not the same thing, even if they write.
Well, and in her case, she was doing like a novella a week in this series. I mean, how? Well, I mean, that would be interesting to find out how. But so
we can try to get her on the podcast.
One of the things Hannah just mentioned was a writing group. I am not currently in a face-to-face writing group, or actually any kind of writing group. Do you do anything like that?
I don't do writing groups. It messes with my head, so I don't do writing groups.
Have you ever?
I went to one, and I just kind of felt intimidated about it, and I didn't want to. This was a few years ago before I even published, but I just felt like I don't know. I think you really have to. Share what you're writing and your style and then critique, and then you expect it to critique other people, and I just kind of I didn't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been in a writing group where we actually exchange stories and critique them. I have been a member of a German writing group, and they do have critique circles, and I've not really been in them. I've not used them a lot because I had a feeling of being easily misunderstood. I don't know. Maybe I'm not not good enough for I have a hard time accepting critique anyway. So I really don't need it from people outside of my genre or people who have literary standards and try to impose them on my fantasy. What has worked really well with that author group is that they cooperate to create anthologies, and I just finished an anthology project that I initiated through that group about 10 years ago. It's finally in print. Woohoo! And so that's a productive thing you can do with author groups. You can actually come up with anthologies, and you don't have to put out a call for stories or anything. You can just do it on your own. You can create. You can coordinate the marketing. You can coordinate readings. So that's cool.
I usually find, though, that if everybody is not as equally committed to doing something like that, that it's like herding cats. And
it is, and it was.
And I think I like how Hannah said too. That's a good idea if you can find one that's genre specific. So like if I could find some thriller writers who know the genre, a lot of the writing groups that I've see or heard of or that I went to are more literary. They're trying to be Hemingway or Steinbeck or whatever, and it's like, well, no, I just want to entertain people and write little stories. So then you're not even going to feel too welcomed in that type of a writing group.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good idea. If you can find a few writers who are in your thriller, who know in your genre, who know what you're going through, that probably would be more helpful. I do have some beta readers, and they're all they either write thrillers or like to read thrillers, and so that helps me a little bit too.
Yeah. And I think the modern term for it is a mastermind or something that you would call it.
Oh, I said a mastermind.
Or accountability group or something like that.
Yeah.
People don't call it writing group anymore, but that's basically. I think having such a group is awesome. If you have this feedback every week, how's it been going? If anyone needs a pick me up, that's easy to come by, and that kind of stuff. I think that's what would make a group worthwhile. That's what I would look for in a dedicated group, to really be able to share.
Something that I found in a lot of groups, though, is not everybody is as committed,
Yes.
and that there are some people who I'm always like, how did you learn to write like that? That is amazing. And then there are some people that I'm like, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
You're not writing. You're doing 2,000 words a week in and week out, if even that. It's really hard to find similar interests, similar talent, similar level.
And I mean, now we have the internet. Imagine doing that 15 years ago in your hometown. My town where I live, it's about 250,000 people. It's not a mega city or anything. And I used to run a writing group. We used to meet once a month, basically mostly fantasy authors. Well, we started out with 4 or 5. It dwindled away to 3 and 2, and the 2 of us met another couple of months, and then it died. And I think the internet really is a better place for that.
Yeah, there is a local meetup that I've seen. I haven't gone to any, but I joined the meetup, and it's called Shut Up and Write. And what they do is they just go to a coffee shop. They say, okay, we're gonna write from 9 to 12, and everyone just gets going.
Well, that's one of the great things. Have you ever done NaNoWriMo?
No,
I love NaNoWriMo. Every November, people, like 1 million or so people all over the world, sit down and decide to write a novel. And most of them are, as Theodore Sturgeon told us, crap. But
Yes, they are.
But they have these meetups that happen in coffee shops all over the place. You can
all over the world, actually.
All over the world, yeah, and you can just show up and everybody's there writing.
What's the word goal count on that NaNoWriMo?
For the month, 50,000 words.
Oh wow!
And you have to do 1,667 per day, and I've been quite successful aiming for 2,000 a day. I'm building up. I have a little Excel file which I use for it, and it shows me. I put in the word count of the full document, and it shows me if I'm ahead or behind, and it adds up. So I have this.
Oh yeah, there are spreadsheets for it.
I created mine myself. I'm proud of it. But yeah, NaNoWriMo is awesome, and I've birthed a couple of novels through that. I don't always manage it. I tried it last year, and things got so crazy I had to give up halfway in, but I got 30K out of it.
I know Hugh Howey does it, and a couple of other pro authors do it as well. So, okay, so when you're having time like you're having at the moment, Alan, where perhaps things are not flowing as smoothly as you would care for them to, what do you do? Do you just wait? Do you just know that it's going to end, so you wait for it to end, or how do you tackle the issue?
Well, even if I might not be hitting my goals or anything, the one thing I do is I don't stop writing. So even if it's if it's not going towards my work in progress, I write every day. So doing that, you're hoping for it then to trigger that spark to get going again and getting back into a regular schedule. And that's usually worked for me. So that's usually what I do. So basically, in order to cure the problems of not writing as what you want, is just to keep on writing, and then it should resolve itself. So yeah, that's just about all. That's just about it. I don't have anything else. I do try to get more organized too. Then saying, okay, look, I'm going to sit down from 9 to 11 today, and I'm going to do this. And so I do that. I do have also. I'll go to a coffee shop that doesn't have a Wi-Fi, and then I'll sit there because then I won't get distracted.
Yeah.
So that also helps too.
Mac Freedom.
Yeah,
Very important thing to install.
Yeah, I do have Mac Freedom. Actually, I haven't used it in a while, so I probably should have to fire that puppy back up now here.
Yeah, I've been pretty good at managing my own internet access, but some days are not working as well as others.
Yeah, well, I read like John Grisham. He has like a writing shack, nothing, no internet, nothing. Michael Connolly, the same thing. He says he has his office, his windows are like painted black. I mean, so that's the extremes you have to go to, really. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's down to me too. You really do need to take it very serious and take it like, okay, I have to do this, and I try to look at it as perspective as a job too. If you're not writing, if you're not publishing, I know I'm hurting myself, my brand, only writing one a year because now people expect more. So especially for indie authors. So
do you find? Oh, go ahead.
Do you find that talking to someone else about your work in progress helps?
Yeah, it does. It even talking with you guys today, it inspires me. Now I'm like, oh, okay, when this is done, I'm gonna really get down and start writing. So yeah, it does. It helps. You get inspired, you get motivated. Hearing about other people, things of that nature. So yeah, but yeah, like Diane said too, there's a lot of external stuff going on right now too. Like with all the changes. I'm not really going to worry about that. I can't control what Amazon does or what Jeff Bezos does. I'm not going to, what can I do about that?
I'm not convinced that Mrs. Bezos can control what Mr. Bezos does.
Yeah, so
do you spend a lot of time or any time looking at the business or even letting it affect you? I had to walk away from a couple of groups this week just because it was affecting me. Not, they can do whatever they want, but I just said enough.
Well, I know for me personally, the best thing that I can do for my business, my publishing business, is have more books out. I only have 2, so I need to write more. So everything else for me personally, and a selfish way right now is. It doesn't really concern me because I don't have, 50 books. I don't have a whole bunch of short stories, so it's not really affecting me. I have gone back now just out of curiosity to check, and for me, summers has always been kind of bad anyway. So summer for me, sales in the summer for me, the last 2 summers, sales have gone down, and then they go back up in the fall. So I was already expecting for the sales dip this summer. Anyway, and so I like to focus then on getting content out, and then I can focus more on the business side of things. I do I stay away from, especially like on the writing forums, like I do stay away from those type of threads because it's just going to get me worked up. It's going to get me worried. So I don't even go into them. I went to one of Hugh Howey because I heard he was getting raked over the coals. So I'm like, wow, because he's so beloved. So I'm like, I gotta see what's going on there. So kind of like the train wreck thing. I did go to and see what was going on there, but everything else, all these things about this is happening, and I stay away from all that. I don't even read those threads.
Yeah. I kind of feel like getting the popcorn because I have a feeling with my level of sales, it's not going to affect me one way or other anyway. And I can be really honest. I'm happy if I have a double-digit month. So, God. So I'm working on mindset, and I'm working on writing. And I have 3 jobs basically: my day job, my coaching practice, and my writing. So I'm just saying, okay, whatever happens, I've got enough to do anyway. So it has entertainment value rather than the potential to really, really drive me out of my mind. And like you said, content production takes priority.
Do you have a production plan, Alan, for like what you want to get done when?
I did, and I wrote it out for at the end of last year for this year, and it's totally way off. So it's like that's actually kind of depressing. So, but yes, I do put together a production plan at the end of the 1 year for the next year.
Yeah, I
My,
have a production plan, and it just went out of the window because my publication date for August got moved back into October because I'm not getting the edits in the way I wanted them. I think shit happens.
I do have respect for the traditional authors who are under very strict deadlines from outside sources that will affect your livelihood. Maybe that's what we need, you know. But yeah,
I think so. I think that we need some kind of to be our own external boss to say
yeah.
this will be done then.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, I'm assuming like I've never been traditionally, I've never even sent a pre letter out, but I mean, I'm assuming those guys have editors who are on their butts. Hey, how are you doing? Have you met your words? You know, and so.
I don't know
Yeah.
if the editors are, especially these days, so
Oh, maybe the
involved.
agents, maybe the agent, yeah.
I think they're just like, "Where's your book? Your book is due June 1st. Where's your book?"
Yeah.
I'm kind of following Jim C. Hines, who is still traditionally published and he's doing fantasy stuff, very comedic fantasy. And what he does, he has deadlines for an outline, he has deadlines for first draft, he has deadlines for revisions, he has deadlines for the finished product. And I think he does have some leeway. He can sort of shift them a little, but that's that. And
Yeah, with traditional publishing, they have to have their calendar planned out for the next year or two. They know when your book needs to go into production.
And he is still working a day job, and he is also attending a lot of conventions. So that man is busy.
Wow. I know. I get very tired reading John Scalzi's travel.
God,
Travel
yes,
schedule.
or Chuck Wendig's.
Yeah, yeah. I would be happy. I mean, some people really. I mean, I'm thinking about Russell Blake, who writes. He says he writes 12, 15 hours a day. I mean, I couldn't do that, but half of that would be nice, just to be able to have half his output.
Yeah.
Would make me
I mean,
happy.
if I focus, and I've done that through Nano, and I wish I could keep that up, but it's just Nano tires me out. But I can throw out 2,000 words in 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah. If I
need to
know
have a scene in my
specifically
mind.
what I'm going to write that day,
Yeah.
I can have immense, like I did the 13,000 words
Yeah.
over 3 or 4 days. It was fabulous.
Yeah, it's
But I
important
need
too.
to have the stuff in my mind, and yeah.
Yeah, because that's the important thing too. Because you kind of bury yourself. Because if you get into a situation where you're not hitting your goals, and you start, the mental stuff starts getting to you, then you start getting further behind. And then you're stressed out about that. It's like college, like writing a paper. You're like, when the paper is due, and you kept putting it off. You keep putting it off. Then it's a week before. Then it's quarter tap night at the bar, and so then it's like the night before you're cramming for it all, and it's just stressful, and yeah. So I try to avoid getting too deep into that hole.
So what are some of your favorite ways to psych yourself up?
Well, not like I just psych myself up. I like to reading psychs myself up. I read something, I'm like, oh, this is so great, and then I get all inspired, or even like talking to other people, and then when it gets time to do it, then it's just like just get down there and just start writing it. Start getting into it, and I try to get myself psyched up for that. I don't try to drag myself. If I'm like, oh, I don't feel like writing at all, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write. I won't do that because then I'll just be staring at the screen. So I do try to psych myself up by saying, okay, time to write. Let's hit 2,000. And I do check the words, if I get a really good spell of like an hour or something, I'm like, oh, how many words was that? I'm like, oh, sweet, 1,200.
Yeah.
Go off from that.
Okay. That sounds good. It's good advice to not sit down in a bad mood and take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to really get into to really psych yourself up and set up the scene and get into it. I like the idea.
Yeah, because this is performance, after all. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to perform. We have to make things happen in our head and put them on paper. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, any other advice for our listening audience about how to make this gig work?
Well, I mean, I would say it's just obviously just continue to write. Don't forget about everything else is secondary if you're not writing.
Yes.
Nothing else is going to matter really. So just no matter what, just continue to write, and then don't beat yourself up. Like you can see, I've published 2 books. You've published a whole bunch of books. Hannah, you've published books, and we all get stuck and we all get in ruts. It's no big deal. Like it'll pass. So don't get too discouraged, especially if someone who's never published before. I know when I had never published before, I would get these ruts and it'd be like, oh man, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm never gonna be able to write anything. I suck. So don't.
One thing that
I've goes through that.
One thing that I've heard a number of places is that the more that you've published, the less any one counts. You still care about it, but it's not as heartbreaking when something doesn't work because it's one of 30 as opposed to one of 4.
Yeah.
I'm sure hoping to get to that point.
Yeah.
Soon.
We're working on that.
Yes, working. I know I've got a whole bunch of stuff in progress that I have to finish and just send it out there. And
you got the whiteboard. You're going. I see the
whiteboard.
I see the whiteboard.
And I got the other whiteboard, but that's in the closet. So.
I got my outline.
Absolutely. Well, great.
I got my stick.
There you go. See?
I don't outline.
There's one of these productivity gurus, Todd Herman, who has a whole project called the 90-Day Year, which I did not take, but I heard him on Amy Porterfield's podcast, and I was like, a 90-day year, okay, 90 days, you're right, that's about as far as I can imagine. He says the idea of planning out the next 5 years is misguided because we're human beings. We can't really plan out 5 years at a time. Anyhow, one of the things he says is to have a totem of some kind when you sit down to do your work to remind you of what you're doing, of who you want to be. I have not found that totem yet, but I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, 90 days seems a lot more, achievable. The 5 years, I would never even try to go down that
but what's your 5-year plan? To still be alive? Yeah. I don't know.
Still be writing.
Still be writing, have more books
reading,
out, Yeah.
Hopefully be on the 3rd series, yes.
Yeah. I mean, but that's, I guess you could say, well, I want my 3rd series out. Okay, what do I have to do to get to the 3rd series? Well, I have to publish all these other books. Okay, what do I have to do to publish all those other books? Write this. What do I have to do in the next 90 days?
Yeah.
And that's when you can make your to-do list. So.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alan, for stopping by and joining us and talking about the writing life.
Oh, sure. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
It's always so much fun to hear about the differences, the different ways that writers write, and the ways that we're all the same.
Yep. Doesn't matter the genre. We're all the same. Down to it.
The genre. Wow. So, okay. I will have a link to your website on the show notes.
Cool, thank you.
Alan Petersen, fantastic author. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the 21st Century Writer Podcast, and hope to see you again next week.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.